Hi everybody, Colin Stevenson here, joined today with my hero and my sensei, John Lenhart. Hi John.
How you doing?
Now today's a little bit different, folks. Today we are going to be talking about tarot. Okay, now I'm not sure if anyone that knows me knows that this is my side, not so much my sideline, but more my side approach. It's not the straightforward approach. So I usually come in from the side of people, and it allows me to understand different things about them. And for the last 2 years, I've been using tarot to help people in their life, to help them understand their thought processes, their behaviors, their ways of working, their interactions with other people. Now, before that, I was still kind of feeling where I was getting to. Now, I've worked with John now for the last year, making videos and been trained by him to understand intangible drivers and how people actually work. Now, when I've put this together with cards, I had to create my own. So I created the Truth Tarot because John, you know yourself, our favourite subject is truth. And I came together with an artist, a local artist myself, who I got on very, very well with. And we've come on board together. She's created the artwork, I came up with the concept, and we both come together to create the Truth Tarot to be able to help people. Now, John, you're going to talk to us about the background of tarot today.
Right. So remember, we just did 3 videos about truth.
Yep.
And people can trigger over this topic. So I want to use this as a chance for people to practice the truth, practice being contrastive, practice getting the information and understanding what really is going on. The truth is the truth, regardless of what anybody says. So there is a background to tarot. And basically in the mid-15th century, a deck of cards was created to play regular card games. These were just average card games that everybody played. It wasn't until the late 18th century, so more than like 350 years later, that people said, hey, let's use these decks for divination. Now, what is divination? Divination is basically you're trying to access spirits to tell you the future. And the reason someone would want to do that is basically they want to avoid the tension of their life. They want to go, what's going to happen into me? I'm too tense worrying about the future. I wonder if there's some way to find out what's going to happen in the future. I'm going to access the spirit world. I'm going to give up a part of myself to do that. And I'm going to, try to lower the tension in my life to do that. That is what tarot is. So now that you know what that is, that's one side, the conjunctive. Let's see exactly what Colin is doing. So Colin, could you explain Truth Tarot?
Yeah, of course I can. Thank you. So basically, we have people that connect with spirit, and we have mediums and these type of people that use and they talk to spirit. I don't hear voices and I don't see things, but I know things. And I know things because I'm in touch with my unconscious brain. And I'm in touch with my unconscious spirit, my soul, whatever way you want to look at it. I have a good connection there. And this has been through, and we'll go on to this in another video, how I managed to get there. But today we'll concentrate on the tarot. So basically, when someone comes to me and they sit in front of me, I will allow them to shuffle the cards. I will allow them to empty their unconscious, and an unconscious brain doesn't read the cards. They just know because they feel when to stop. When they stop shuffling, I then turn the cards over and I am able to read for them what is in here. So I don't tell people that I can tell the future, and I never will, because personally, I don't see it being possible within myself, okay? What I can do is I am able to tell people where they are going right for themselves, wrong for themselves, and their interactions and thought processes during whatever they're going through at the moment. Now, a lot of the time, 99% of the time, I can associate this with what's going on in their life, depending on what cards comes out. So this could be work, it could be relationship, it could be business, it could be family, it could be any of these type of things, and I can relate to their interactions. And I think out of lots and lots and lots of readings, I've had 3 people that I couldn't resonate with, and this was done over a picture. So this wasn't even me having a conversation. I usually do them on video call. These ones I was looking at a picture and I shuffled to try and get the connection in there. Now, when people on the other side, so the client, I don't believe if they're not open, if they're very closed off to everything and closed off to their unconscious, I'm not able to tap into that. So out of all of the people that I've done, I have had 3 clients tell me that they couldn't resonate, and I felt it before, and I explained it to them when I sent them the recording. I said I wasn't able to get in, but this is what I got. So when they came back to me and says I didn't, I said I felt you're closed. And when we had the conversation, they went, "You're absolutely right. I'm very closed off with X, Y, and Z." So people have to be open to allow me to come in. Now, the reason I call it truth tarot, and the reason I call it truth is because it just is, it's not a case of, I'm not asking questions, I'm not getting told it's right or wrong. The only time that people are allowed to interrupt what I'm saying, and I don't mean it's not a rule, but I prefer it just so that I can flow and channel the information, is when I say something that doesn't resonate. And that doesn't happen very often because I'm in touch with my unconscious, soul, subconscious, whatever way you want to look at it.
Right. So let's take this from the start. So, and you rightly said, they're shuffling, their unconscious is in charge of that. Your unconscious is a supercomputer. When you walk into a restaurant, your unconscious instantly knows how many people in the room. It knows who's an abusive person, who's not. It knows all these things. So it's shuffling and it's doing that. Now, one of the steps here is that a person has got to be willing to shuffle these cards and give up control. So there's a measure in there already about control, whether people know it or not. Is, are you okay with these cards doing this thing? And it's just a trick, if you will, of are you giving up control? People who don't want to give up control, people who aren't open are not going to do that step. The second thing is that it really is a distraction. If you remember the unconscious confrontation, the key to the unconscious confrontation is to focus the conscious on one thing, so the unconscious is free to immediately interact. The cards, the setting, all these things are there to get the client to look consciously one way so Colin can vibe them unconsciously, whether it's micro expressions, whether it's, humans physiologically syncing their thought processes. Colin's sitting there hopefully in flow. They walk in, he's going to be able to sense if they're 320, 160, or 80. He's going to have a sense of that. Then with the intangible drivers, he can start having a sense of what their intangible drivers are. The minute you know a person's uniqueness and what thought process they're in, that's when I get information from people. I don't use a deck of cards. I kind of do the same thing Colin does. I walk in a room and I kind of distract people by saying something and start reading their unconscious and then vibe in their intangible drivers. And now I know how to talk to them. Now I know where they're going to have a sense of issue, where their issues are, and then basically be able to talk to those issues and vibe them. So that's all you're doing at this point. The big thing you're doing is you're letting the cards, so Colin is letting the cards give him aspects of storytelling.
Yep.
One of the things that Colin and I bonded over very quickly is the ability to tell stories. It's very easy to sit and listen to Colin talk because he talks in stories, and that's what these cards are doing. We have teachers putting together, basically flashcards that give the students a character, a conflict, and they have to write a resolution. This is what the cards are doing. The cards will give you a character, they'll give you a conflict, and now Colin's using his storytelling and his improv ability to create a story and then see how that other person responds in order to vibe them.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just as you were talking about the intangible drivers and where they're sitting at, somebody can sit in front of me. I will talk. I don't ask questions, as I say, because then that looks as if I'm not doing my job properly. What I will do is I will distract, like you say, I will talk about anything but them and anything but what we're just about to do. and I will usually talk about myself, because there's nobody likes to talk about better things than themselves. It allows them to relax because I'm not talking about them. They don't feel pressure. They feel that I'm opening up. And then I talk to them sometimes about my journey, how I got to here, what else it is that I'm doing, and all these type of things. So it brings it all together, and I can say, I can see you started to cool down now. Do you feel a lot better? And they say, yeah. Or I can say, I can still feel you're slightly nervous. Is it because you think of the information that you're going to get, or is it because you've never done it before? And this, again, they go, he feels me, he understands what I'm feeling. And it doesn't matter what they're thinking, it's how they're feeling that I pick up. And when I'm able to say this to them, it's an instantaneous connection, and it allows them just to relax.
So what you're doing here, and I wish more people would do this step that you're doing. If you remember the intangible drivers, the difference in your why and the how is how much internal tension you have.
Yep.
An exhorter perceiver, and we covered this already, has the most internal tension, or perceiver exhorter, either way, has the most internal tension. People aren't going to share deeply until the external tension is less than the internal tension. People who are servers, giver-servers, two that are close together, they do not want to share deeply because the external tension is always more. It is key to make the environment safe if you want people to share. The way you make it safe is to lower the tension. The way you make it safe, Colin, is you kind of bear their pain. You tell stories about yourself. You tell stories about yourself that probably show you were a knucklehead and you didn't do things exactly right. And then they feel like, this guy's safe to share with because he's sharing on himself. A lot of times, one of the things I tell people is if you want other people to share, don't, and you're doing this perfectly, Colin, don't ask them a lot of questions, outshare them. The way to get other people to share is to just start sharing deeply on yourself. And it causes people to go, I want to share, I'm behind, I want to share. So the way to get other people to share is to share themselves. So this stage, I would give you an A++, and I wish more people would do what you're doing. If you're trying to lower the tension to make it safe so they open up, and then you said you can feel it and physically see when they're feeling safe.
Yeah. Now, I also get skeptics. Okay. Now, I love talking about skeptics because skeptics come to me on different levels. So some of them don't believe in the esoteric. Some of them don't understand the unconscious. So either way, that what they think that I'm doing is wrong because they don't understand it. Now, when they come to me and say, I've never done this before, I don't even know why I'm sitting here. Can you, and this is the point where this is my favorite. And I say, you were obviously attracted to something that I am doing, and we'll work out what that is towards the end. So then what I'll do is, again, I'll go back to talking about me again, because the people that are most skeptical in my belief are the people that are so closed off and they don't allow themselves to be read by other people. And this tends to allow them to kind of go through life quite closed off. And the minute that I'm able to turn over maybe, I use 23 cards, right? 4 different decks. So it is quite intricate, shall we say, and it all kind of all merges together, which is really, really cool as well. But when I'm able to turn over a few and I'm able to just, the first 2 things or the first 3 things, these people just go, I can't believe that. Okay, how do you do it? And I say, I don't know. It's not a thing that I ask myself because I'll confuse myself. So what I do is I just remain in flow and I just keep talking and allow this to go through so they can record it. They can, write notes down, any of these important things. But the amount of people that have come back to me and says, I can't believe it, I've never had anything like this, it is mega.
So I love your very first sentence. So when they sit down and they say, I don't know why I'm here, and you say there's something that was drawing you here, it's your understanding of the unconscious. At that point, you're talking right to their unconscious. Their unconscious is the thing that drives their behavior, gives them energy, pushes them a certain way consciously, and they're saying it. I don't know consciously why I'm here. Yeah. You're here because you're unconscious. That's the subtitle. You're here because you're unconscious. And now I'm going to say some things to you consciously to make me better friends with your unconscious. And that's what you do. When I go into classrooms, I do the same thing with the students. I do exactly the same things. I'm this old 57-year-old guy walking into a classroom and the kids look at me like, oh, this guy's not going to do anything. And I talk to their unconscious, and then I leave and I tell the teacher, next time I come back, they're going to love me, because their unconscious is going to drive them towards me, because their unconscious is going to say, he's the only guy who talked to me, meaning the unconscious. Sure enough, I show up. And so I always have to tell these teachers that I'm sorry they didn't really pay attention. I'm sorry they weren't really focused. I'm sorry. I'm just setting the stage for the next time I come. The next time I come, watch. They're going to be a lot more locked in. And that's what you did, is you talked right to his unconscious and drew him in. And now he's definitely not leaving. His unconscious won't let him leave.
Yeah. And do you know what's even more, what you're talking about coming back to the class? I tell people that I don't want them back within 3 months, okay? Because what they get given is things that they need to work on. They need to do repetitively to change their program. So I know people that would come back to me every week if they could. But if they're doing that, they're relying on that thing to tell me more, but they're not doing anything. So when I put a 3-month ban as such on them coming back into my presence for a reading, doesn't mean they can't contact me or I won't help them. It just means that I won't give them another reading, because if they take what I've spoken about and they do that repetitively, they will change their own program, their own behaviours, their own thought processes, and their life will be automatically better. If they wish then to come back after 3 months, I can actually put them on another path where they've got more stuff to learn and more people to change, you know. And at this point, I think people understand, and this is what you were talking about, the class coming back to them. People send their friends to me. Do you know, I've got my friend, they would so benefit from talking to you, or my friend would like really enjoy your company. I'm like, send them. And we've spoken about this before. There's not a safer place in the world, and I mean this, that I know of, that, well, I can personally say personally, I don't believe there's a safer place in the world that anybody in the world would feel rather than sit in front of me being understood. And I mean that in the unconscious brain.
Right. So you just alluded to the fact that you give them some steps. So help us understand the transition to this final part.
Okay, so when we go through the reading, when I'm going through my cards, I made up my own reasons for the cards. So, and they were based, so I was using the books that we were given through tarot, but that's somebody else's interpretation. So I didn't feel that they resonated with me as much as they might have resonated with the person. It's not how I wanted to make them feel. It's not what I wanted them to know. And I knew that wasn't right. So during this transition of learning about the conscious, the unconscious, the communication, the thought processes, all these things, I was like, this is how I can change the world. This is what I can do to give people. So I started putting my knowledge, my unconscious, subconscious, soul, whatever, into the mix together to allow people to come out with steps. So if I come up with a relationship and a problem in a relationship, I can say, okay, I can see this person has a sharp tongue. I can see this person speaks to you badly, but I can also see that you get over emotional. And what you're doing is, you see, so I can then come in here and explain to them how they can change their relationship with this person. You know, most readers will turn around and say, I can see this person's bad for you, they're not nice to you, get rid of them. I'm not like that, because there's always two sides to a story. So if I can see and pick up some other energy, I will always say to people, there's a choice here, but I will never tell them what to do. I will only explain to them what to do is how they can change for the better. I never give any bad. So if I bring up there's going to be some sort of loss, I won't tell them about it. What I'll say is, for moving forward, if you keep doing this, this, and this, I know that they're going to be internally, mentally strong for them to overcome that. You know, so the steps that I give are always to improve their behavior, their thought process, and their interaction with other people. That is my main focus. And that's why I call it a Truth Tarot. And that is why I would like to improve the world through my cards.
So you've told me about being able to tell people that they need to improve the way they speak to others, even though everybody in their family has told them the same thing, but they'll listen to you.
Yeah, 100%. And the reason is because they don't feel defensive towards me, they feel defensive towards their family. Their family is always judgmental, and it's based on, I will never judge somebody that sits in front of me. Never in my life will I judge them, and they know that, and they feel that because they don't feel any tension. So when there's no tension coming towards them, and then I'm sharing, all they can do is share and be open, which means that they will then listen. The messages, the emails, the phone calls that I've had to say, thank you, you've literally changed my life, and I've done nothing. I've done nothing. They're the ones that are taking their behavior, their thought process, their communication, and everything forward, and they're changing their own life. And this is what I want people to understand. If there was a way of me being able to tell the future, I would love to do it. But all it takes is someone to walk to the bottom of a T-junction road and take a left instead of a right, and the future has changed. So why not give them the information that they can have the choices to be free, have the choices to have a better, happier life, and have the choices to make other people's lives better by acting their best.
So the thing that you and I bonded over most is what I call the two highest levels of thought process.
Yeah.
When I help people improve their thought process and improve their mental ability, I say there's two things that I can teach you, and then there isn't anything past this. If you can do these two things, then you have the ultimate in mental ability. One is improv,
yeah,
which you do very well. I think a lot of people like our interaction because we improv a lot of this talk. We have a rough idea of what we're going to talk about, but you and I are just improving. The story or the rule behind improv is yes and. And so everything you just said about I don't give them the negative stuff, I don't do the, the no, that kills improv. Improv's always yes and. Whatever someone says, yes and. Someone gives you input, you're not going to fight it. Yes and you build. You're a great improver, Colin. So I know that's one of them. The other is to create a game. If you can make a game out of a situation, then what happens is you flow. And the key to making a game is to have a set of rules or a limitation like we saw, in the conjunctive. Whenever you play a game, the goal is to win. Do whatever it takes to win, but follow those rules. And no one asks, what are the limitations of this game? When you pull out the board game, no one says, what's the limitations of this game? They go, what are the rules of the game? I want to know the rules because the more I embrace them, the more I'm going to win. The same thing is what you're doing is you are doing some things. It's kind of a game. You're getting them focused over here so that they can flow and have a good time and play this game with you, this improv game, and then they learn something more and they're in a better spot. And so then they can make this choice. So basically, if I had to summarize, the difference, we said tarot is trying to access the spiritual world, trying to see the future, and the person coming to you is trying to avoid tension. Versus you're actually using your unconscious, not the spirit world. You're using your unconscious. You're distracting with the cards and using your unconscious. You're talking about their past, not the future, what you've done in the past. And then they're willing to embrace the tension of having next steps. What you're doing is literally the opposite of what tarot is. So anybody who attacks you, it's really easy to go, what do you think tarot is? And what do you think I'm doing? So before we wrap this up, do you have any of the cards you can show us?
Yeah, so I've got so that we're able to see them on camera. I've got the larger ones. So this is the ones that I've got at the graphic designers just now. So this is the hermit crab, okay? The hermit in tarot is how can I put it? It's the person that goes inside. That's the journey of self, okay? The hermit crab goes inside whenever it's scared or whenever it needs to grow or whenever it needs to feed or whatever. So we have changed. She's extremely talented, and we've kept it black and white and grey because we didn't want it to be too fancy or too colourful. And Lisa's extremely talented with her art. So there we've got the sun card as well. So again, we've got sunflowers, which is growth. We've got the sun, it's large, it's up in the sky. We are keeping them Sun is you coming into your, it's you're not letting the sun shine in depending where it is, so you're blocking it out with your behaviour. Or it is, it's going to come as long as you do this. So everyone's always got a call to action. The tower, we went more for a castle. So this card usually stands for trying to control things out with your control. So this is like people try and control other people. They can try and control the world. They try and control everything but themselves. And when they try and control themselves too much, they're out of flow. Which means if they're not in flow, they can't control anything because they're too busy being distracted and can't control. So all these different cards, the star card, this is working on your intuition, listening to your gut feelings, listening to you. You know that before you have that thought in your brain, take that action. Don't question it. Your brain will lie to you. The devil, this is the self-talk. This is all about people putting themselves down, not allowing themselves to grow and flow. Again, come back to flow again. If you're flowing, you're growing. If you're not flowing, you're not growing, which means you're staying here and you have no belief. Again, it's about changing those habits and the self-talk to get better. Temperance is your yin and the yang, the dark and the light and the dark. So this is you trying to find balance in your emotions, trying to find balance in your interactions, trying to find balance into your way of life. You've got to welcome in the balance before you can start to kind of create anything. And this is my favourite, and we'll talk about this one last. So this is the Chariot. The Chariot is about the universe moving you forward, moving forward and flowing with the universe. Now, because Lisa and I do like the spooky side of things, the witchy stuff, and we've got a pumpkin. Okay, so I don't know if you can see it well. So the pumpkin is a chariot. Cinderella had her chariot turned into a pumpkin, all these type of things. So we designed them in a way where they're recognizable to people. But I'm talking about this is about moving forward. Depending on where the card is situated, I can tell a person if they're digging their heels in against their purpose, if they're digging their heels in, or if they're being pushed into something and they're not using their intuition to get it. I can pick up on many a thing that allows people to know that I understand them and they can make the changes. So when you were talking about the game, life is a game. We're all in a game, right? If people are then leaving and then they've got the right moves to win the game, to get to the next level, what can be wrong with that? I'm not telling them you're going to win the lottery or the lotto, as you call it in America. I am going to say if you do this, 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 and this, you'll come into abundance, because you can't not come into abundance, So it's not even hope that I'm giving them. It's almost instruction from the divine. It is instruction from the divine. It's not me, but it is me, if that makes sense. It's a wonderful thing. And I always welcome people in, and especially skeptics are my favourite. Again, allowing them to kind of open up. It's a lovely process. And again, it's all for the better and the higher good of others.
Right. And that's where a skeptic's like a bully. I love them too, because they charge at you. And if you just take backward steps, they're pretty easy to beat. So yeah. This is awesome. Thank you.
No, and thank you for allowing me to come on and speak about it with you. And I'm glad that you can put obviously some science behind it. You can, so if people don't believe in the law of attraction and the manifestation and the esoteric side of things, they have to believe in science. You've got to be one or the other. So it's good that how you and I are both similar, but we're both understanding the other sides of each other now. It's great. And I just want to talk to people just quickly about why I don't explain anything bad. And it's the power of manifestation. Now, if I was to tell you this is going to happen to you, you're going to focus on that. And it's guaranteed to happen. You can't change it. The reason I don't tell people that anything bad happens is because they will focus on the good and they will leave feeling elated, and there's more chance of them changing their behaviors to change their life.
And what we've learned in the brain is if you give someone a don't, they're 3 times more likely to do it. It's amazing how many people on Facebook or LinkedIn's advice begins with don't do this, don't do that. And I love to write a little comment saying, you just made it 3 times more likely for people to do it. So again, that's the science behind that. So yeah, this is awesome. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. And what I would like to do is sometime in the future, we're going to get somebody on and do a live read, which would be absolutely great. We'll get it a live read, we'll get it recorded live. so that we're able to create some magic online and we can show the viewers how it's done. I think that would be magic.
Great.
Excellent. Thank you very much, John. You have a fantastic day. Thanks a lot.
Bye.